We'll start with you, finishing that story you were talking about.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's how my parents feel sometimes.
I'm just joking.
It was a part of a question. It was two questions. So in the coffee shop, a guy had an iPad with Procreate that his kid was
Oh,
using.
cool. Well, that's
And
cool that he was just there too, just drawing or what?
so his child was using it. And the child saw what I was doing on the computer and was like in French, insisting that I draw on this iPad. She's like, take this, here's the pencil, draw something. And I drew it. And it's night and day when you can draw on the screen and when you have to use the tablet that you're sitting down. Because after I went back to my tablet, I was like, oh, this is garbage. It sucked.
Yeah.
So my question is, now I gotta get either a Cintiq or an iPad or
Get an iPad.
Get an iPad?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that settles it. That was pretty quick.
Yeah, I prefer a Wacom tablet.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm painting with right now, like just a straight, like a small little Wacom tablet.
Just on your desk?
Yes, just on my desk.
Because I have one, the Intuos 5, big one. And
small one. Here, let me take a picture so you can see what I see. Here, I gotta put my headphones down. Hold on. You will be able to hear me, but I cannot hear you. So just don't say anything because I have my headphones off. But I am going to take a picture from Skype or on my phone from Skype. You can see my workstation. Pretty simple. All right, I'm sending it over right now. All right, so if you check Skype, you can see what I got. And actually, I'll pull it up on my main screen so we can talk about it. It's nothing crazy. It's just like a standing desk. It's like a small little coffee desk.
Yeah.
My main machine is my laptop. I used to have like a big tower, but laptops have gotten so fucking powerful that I just decided when I was about to upgrade, I was saving up for like about half a year to get a new PC.
Yeah.
I was gonna save it for like a whole year, but then I was just like looking at some of the specs for laptops, and it's relatively thin too. Like what you see there, it's not that big. It's actually very portable. And this is like better than my tower, almost by 1.5 times. It's not 2 times better, but it's like close, and it's portable. And I'm like, all right. And then I just plug it in, like you see all the wires coming out of the side. I plug it into the monitor, but I have those wires. There's kind of like a system there that I have, and then I just unplug that, and then I just take it to the kitchen, and I can work in the kitchen. And I literally just put my mouse pad, my mouse, and my Wacom tablet on top of my laptop, and then just bring it to the living room, and then just reset it up in the living room, And all the wires are there because of my headphones and stuff like this, but it's relatively clean. I like to keep my area relatively tidy. But and then you can see my timer right next to my, like right on the right there. You can see it. And then there's a little power charger for my phone usually when I'm charging my phone. It's really simple, and I prefer this setup, like the Wacom, and I have my main Photoshop on here. That's where I'm painting, and then that's it. I prefer this because it feels the most like painting to me, right? Where the other way feels like drawing. But with all that being said, okay, and saying all of that, right? I do think the iPad is better as a tool in general. Okay. And so this is important. detail, especially if you are a draftsman. Like if you draw a lot,
Mm-hmm.
it is by far a better tool to use.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have I have started to change my philosophy because of this whole thing about getting faster and better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've changed my philosophy to just be a better painter
Mm-hmm.
overall. And so the strategies that I've been employing have been to just be a better artist, like just draw better, um, and paint better,
Mm-hmm.
so that it really doesn't matter what tool I'm on. And it already is relatively true, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I were to block in shapes and forms, regardless of the tool that I'm working with, that is by far more ideal. Um, and like I said, it's mostly true already because when I went to the competition, like I mentioned before, I was under like red lights, super loud music, and the machine I was working on was like a slug.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, you would have never noticed. Like you even said, like it looked like I was just fucking around. But the reality is, I was sweating bullets, man. I was super nervous. No, my heart rate. I have like a little heart monitor thingy, like for exercise, and it's set that my heart rate was over 115, like the whole time. Uh, I absolutely lost calories. Like I lost weight after that event. I lost like 3 pounds, and so absolutely having some foundational skill is incredibly useful is what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm.
And I am for the last few weeks have made that my mission to become a master painter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take a long ass time to truly be a master, but I'm sure I'll get close to it in the next 2 years, or at
Mm-hmm.
least appear to be. And then every year after that, I'll be extraordinary. I'm trying to build a system of learning that's even better than the one I have now. Again, changing my philosophy, you know, focusing on the right now I'm drinking my coffee, I'm not painting. Um, like focusing on the merits of what I said before of like being able to draw a straight line. What's the fastest way? By
Mm-hmm.
just drawing a straight line. What's the fastest way to draw an ellipse? Draw an ellipse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people like, well, what tool to use? Like, how do you get the ellipse better? So just draw it perfect the first time. And so, well, that's like really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's faster. Like if you could do it, it's faster. You know.
Yeah.
Um, and so right now I'm in the mindset of what's faster. What's the fastest way to construct a face? By just painting a face. Like just knowing exactly the features in which you need to draw immediately a relatively convincing face.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to my friend about this last on our sketch group on Wednesday, and I was saying like ultimately what this mean is you need to learn how to consolidate.
Mm-hmm.
So so to your original kind of question too of like which is a better tool, I do think that the what you call it, the iPad is a fantastic tool, and me being a better painter will only make that tool even more valuable to me because it's so portable,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so easy to just open up and to start painting.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'll still have to use Photoshop for a lot of client work, mainly for the kind of like heavy duty stuff, or not. I'm sorry, not Photoshop, but more of the my computer because of
Mm-hmm.
these bigger projects require me to use bigger tools. You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
eventually, the iPad I think will be, or some sort of device will be strong enough to even run some of the most craziest softwares that exist on the PC. This pixel streaming stuff that you're seeing, like right now, is being introduced with video games, right? Like being able to have any video game on any device. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, it's focused on video games, but that same principle could be applied to like 3D software, like having ZBrush on your smartphone or
Mm-hmm.
iPad, and it would run as smooth as butter. because it's actually the video card and the processing is being offloaded somewhere else.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
absolutely think that's going to happen.
Mm. I ask because my my philosophy is the same as yours, except I have the addition of I have to work around my limitations when I'm not training to get better at them. So, like with the oil painting, my drawing skills were always okay,
Sure.
all right at best. And to offset that, I just always drew gigantic. I always drew it very, very big because a small mistake, because of the size, it always gave me more time to fix it.
Yeah, totally.
So I could always fix it with the tablet down on the desk because it involves so much. My tablet is pretty big.
Sure.
And it's such it was such a big learning curve to have one hand on the keyboard and then the other doing the thing.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And the zooming out and the shortcuts. Whereas when I was using the iPad, it's like I don't have to think about any of that shit. I just kind of did the thing.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, a lot of my friends complain about the iPad because there's no keyboard and all this stuff, and I'm like, that just means you got to think of it differently. It's just a different tool. You wouldn't paint. You wouldn't do. You wouldn't do color pencils the same way you do oil painting, right? When we think of traditional tools, what makes you think that Procreate is Photoshop on the iPad? You know, in fact, I think it's smarter to take advantage of the touch interface than it is to try to create like a keyboard equivalent. It kind of defeats the purpose of portability. Then just get a laptop. You know, it's laptops aren't that much bigger. You know, and keyboards attached to it, right? And there's some tablets that you can draw on top of, you know. And
I have a computer. It ain't it cheap.
Yeah, and so my point is that like if you really want the like accessibility to all those hotkeys and stuff like this, which is there is value to that for sure, you know. Then just go to the go to the primary tools that have access to this stuff, you know. Otherwise, learn how to paint with the iPad, right? Like, and that's what I've done. I've learned how to draw and paint with the iPad really well. In fact, I do work on it all the time, you know. And so because I just think differently, I'm like, okay, these are the tools, this is the limitations, you know, and this is what I can get away with, this is what I can't get away with, you know. And that even that line is being blurred. And I got onto the beta for the latest Photoshop, or like it's not Photoshop, but it's like Adobe's new painting tool on the iPad. And it's cool. It's good. It still has its limitations, and it's not nearly as crazy as Photoshop. And I think people are going to be very disappointed because they think they're going to get like Photoshop, but it's not. It's totally not Photoshop. But I'm going to be talking to them on Tuesday. We'll see if they'll take my feedback on what might happen and what they want to do about it. But I am actually in agreement and aligned with kind of their goals of making a truly 3D, or I'm sorry, 2D, like truly 2D kind of like painting tool that exists on the iPad, you know. And their painting tools are really reminiscent of traditional tools, and I like it. Really great. But it like, you know, it doesn't have all the stuff that you would expect in Photoshop, right? Like if you want to do photo manipulating and stuff like this, this is not going to work out for you, you know. But if you are just a good painter, like I think they got Carla Ortiz to do a demonstration, and she's a great example of the kinds of people that this is probably made for. Uh, I'm with it too. I like it, but I ultimately still think Procreate has a more of a production um, ready tool than this one. But they're just starting out, and I even mentioned I did like a video critique to them about like what they should change. Basically, why fix something that ain't broke? Like there's already a lot of good features in these other tools. Like why don't you just try to like mimic them or make them better? It seems odd to just like reinvent the wheel, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
specifically like the color picking. Like color picking is just better when you can just press a button and then color pick with the other hand, not use the same hand to color pick. It's weird, you know. It's just super feels backwards, right?
Mm-hmm. 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 I realized that I couldn't, like, color was just not going to happen on the iPad.
Well, what tool were you using?
It was Procreate.
No, you could totally do it. You just didn't. You just need more time. You just didn't know. But it is by far a great. Like I've done finished paintings on that. It is totally capable of doing incredible work. So
Yeah.
that was more of a user error than the tool lack of ability. Okay, you got to trust me on that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, any
Feel
other
like
questions?
I've taken up forever. You just talk about your experience at the competition.
Well, let's take another question and then we'll talk about
Yeah.
the competition if there is any. I'm sure there's someone else. I have, any, I have a feeling I know who's gonna start talking.
Was it me?
Yep,
Yeah.
it was. I'm not lying.
I actually just wanted to ask if you're going to Japan again, because I actually go there pretty often. It'd be cool to meet up. I know good
Oh,
restaurants. Yeah.
well. I mean, I will say that I'm sure you do, but I'm vegan, so
Oh.
it might immediately destroy this this premise of restaurants. But
Oh,
it's
that's why
funny.
you lost 3 pounds at the competition.
No, I think actually I do think that it's partly the food I was eating. Not because I was limited. I actually ate. There was plenty of stuff to eat. It was just that the nature of like Japanese culture versus like American culture when it comes to food, like the proportions, even like the dishes that my friends were getting, the proportions are just much smaller. You
Yeah, well, I mean, you're like twice their physical size, so.
Yeah, well, like not that's not entirely true, but like, but I understand what you're saying. But like, no, it's just the America we eat way too much of everything. It's just how it is, you know.
Mhm.
Like it's not just like we're bigger. Like no, like we eat too much. We're all fucking fat, you know. Like it's a true statistic that we're like overweight monsters, you know. Yeah, like obesity is on the rise. I think,
Oh yeah.
but like in the next 5 years, I think that they said that like 50% of American population is going to be obese, and
You're like
that's
Wally.
yeah, that's fucking crazy to me, man. Um, yeah, obesity is a real thing here in the states, and so, but like yeah, like those the portions, like I was eating very limited portions, and I was eating mostly vegan stuff, so it's like it's mostly vegetables. I usually whenever I go to visit other countries and I have to order food for myself, it's usually very limited to just the sides because people are like, "Oh,
Yeah.
there's nothing here." I'm like, "No, there's plenty of sides." And in fact, I ordered like a bunch of these really delicious sides that everyone was like, "That's actually really good." I had like this rice. It was like rice and like seaweed type of thing,
Yep.
and like they ordered like some other rice, like regular traditional kind of fried rice, but then people ended up eating what I ordered because it was fucking delicious. And we ordered another one of that. You know, it was actually better than the other fried rice that had like bacon and pork in it. You know,
Okay.
yeah, they're like, no, this is like super tasty. And I'm like, yeah, dude, like,
Yeah, good.
yeah, you'd be surprised. But like, yeah, it wasn't that challenging. They have like this. They have plenty of these dishes. They like this like fermented bean, like sushi rolls.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
That's
really
good.
good. Yeah, I ate a lot of that. There's like fermented radishes stuff too that they have. I ate a lot of that. Traditional stuff like cucumber rolls, avocado rolls are very rare, but whenever they were there, I ate that. Miso soup, soba. there's stuff. You know what I mean? I ate plenty. It's just like, you know, if you're like, oh, I got to take you to this very exotic like sushi or barbecue place, I'm probably not going to eat any of that food.
Oh, it's all right then.
Yeah, but
Yeah, no. I mean, I'd still have to meet up if you happen to be there.
nope.
No. Okay.
Only if we can go to the restaurants, and apparently we cannot. Yeah, no, of course. I'll see if I could keep in touch. And but yeah, if they do another event and they invite me to compete again, then of course, down to kick
Yeah.
some more
Are
butt.
you in Australia or Thailand or Singapore either?
I've never been to Australia ever. I've never
That's
been to
not much here.
Singapore. I've never been to, what was the other place?
Thailand.
Never been to Thailand. I would love
Oh.
to go to Thailand though, because Thailand is yeah, is it Thai? Yeah, it's Thai food. Yeah, Thai food is actually incredibly delicious and mostly has a lot of vegan or vegetarian options
Yeah.
than people would expect. It's pretty dope.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let me know if you're in any of those places. It's my 4-country rotation.
Okay. Yeah, I'll you'll have to follow me or message me on Facebook so that way we can keep in touch.
Oh, Facebook. Yeah, Facebook's good for me.
Or Instagram. Otherwise, I will never contact you, or I will forget entirely.
I know.
All right, cool.
Cool. I'll get you. All right. Thanks. Hey, thanks for the whole month. That was it was really good to be pushed. I'm just looking at the stuff that we've done collectively as a class. I'm like, man, I would have never done this much work like in a year on my own.
Well, try to keep up that habit, man. Like I always tell people too to not lose contact with your classmates and other people you make friends with. I regularly like contact people that like good friends of mine. I call them and I just talk to them and just catch up. It's not bad, Strats. It's good. It's good for the soul to maintain friendships, but it's also good practically to maintain relationships in this fashion. So
Yeah. Wait, what's your Facebook? Sorry.
it should
There's
just
like
be
a bunch of
Robotpencil.
Anthony Jones.
Yeah.
Oh, Robotpencil.
Yeah, that's why I use Robotpencil. I can tell. I'll tell a couple funny stories.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll tell a couple funny stories about my name. Like Anthony Jones is such a common name that when I was in high school, there was another Anthony Jones, and he would always get in trouble, and they would always call me into the office. I remember one time they called me in, and they're like, "Hey, man, we found weed in your locker. Like, what are you doing with weed in your locker? Huh, kid?" And I'm like, "Weed? Yeah." And I was like, "Locker?" It's like, "Yeah." It's like, "Isn't lockers reserved for seniors?" And they're like, yeah. Wait, what's going on here? And then I was like, because I'm only a freshman, and so I don't even have a locker, you know. So it was cool he caught me and all, but like, the fuck? Like, is this some future version of me? And they were just like, obviously a paraphrase. I didn't say stuff like this to teachers, and but like they were like, wait a minute, hold on, and then they went through the names and they realized I was Anthony C. Jones, not Anthony N. Jones. They were looking for Anthony N. Jones, and then so they're like, oops, ignore everything you heard here. All right. And I actually knew that other Anthony Jones too. So his name was, everyone called him Bugs. And so it's funny. And then same thing happened again. They called me in. And this time I was a little bit more prepared because I was like, I have done nothing. Like, why are they calling me? You know? And so I'm already kind of like already like, okay, what is it this time? You know? And then they call me in and they're just like, yeah, your mom called and she said that you need to go pick up your brother from school. And I was like, oh, my brother, huh? Like, yeah, your brother. Oh, that's interesting. My mom called and said this, right? And they're like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have a brother. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, you guys did this before. Like, there's another Anthony Jones. And they're like, oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, ignore that. You heard this. All right. And then another time where I got pulled over once, and then there was like a warrant for my arrest, and then I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, you this and this and that, and I was like, no, that's kind of bullshit. And then so I had to like get a lawyer, go to like the courts, and essentially find out, like, when I went to like the office and to try to sort this out, the lady was like, she took my information, and then she looked at like the person, the Anthony Jones, in which like the photo that was attached to it from her records, because she had access to it. So I guess the cop didn't. And she's like, yeah, this is not you. And then she like flipped her monitor around, and it's just like some old white dude. I don't know if you know what I look like. I'm not a white dude, and I'm not
Yeah.
that old looking. You know, maybe now I could probably pull off the old, but definitely not then. I was definitely young and spry, and so I was just like, God damn it. And so the whole thing was a nightmare. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I go by Robotpencil, because I know Anthony. Very common name. Yeah. In fact, if you feel the same is true for you, you should probably come up with an alias.
No, there is literally one of me because the last name is so unusual.
Then you're lucky. You can just go roll with it. That's actually great.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, hey, wanted to tell you something. You just might be interested. Remember right at the beginning of this class when the first critique was that I needed to choose whether I was going to go realistic or stylistic?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was asking a lot of questions, and probably from your perspective, it sounded like I was pushing back and sort of rejecting that advice. But I've thought about it over the weeks, and, you know, I was totally not trying to come across as, you know, the resistant student, or
Too late.
I know better than no yeah, and I thought about it, and I was thinking, you know, why was I struggling so much with that idea of, you know, style versus realism? And I think I've realized that it's because, I don't know, like in my mind I see reality and fantasy as almost the same thing, so like I just couldn't see the I couldn't distinguish style and realism.
No, totally.
Yeah, no, which sounds really odd, but it's kind of like how I am with accents, because I grew up in a school with like people from 40 different countries and all sorts of accents. So my brain actually doesn't hear accents anymore. Like it just tunes it out because it's all the same to me. So it's the same with realism, stylism, because now over the last month, when I've practiced looking at reference and picking out, okay, this is realism, then this is stylized. Now I look back and I'm like, wow, how did I ever think League of Legends was realistic, you know? But yeah, initially I just couldn't see the difference.
No, it's what expertise is about. That's what that is. Expertise is to recognize the differences in things that other people cannot, right? Like an expert earthwormer, like someone who like studies earthworms, like when we look at a worm, we could probably see no discerning difference between the worms, but an expert earthworm person can. You know what I mean? Like, because that's what they've trained to be able to see the differences in. And so like art is the same way. Like some people look at a lot of one style of art as one type of genre, and it's only when you start to gain some expertise when you can start to recognize it much more fluidly and clearly, you know. So no, you're not wrong. This is a common thread.
Okay, I thought it was just me, like I'm just like style blind or something.
No, you're training, you're literally training your eye to notice the differences. So that's great.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, just wanted to clear that up, so like we didn't end on the note where you think I'm
I still think you're a trouble student. How dare you? When I see you, I'm gonna slap you. Like, you're such a trouble student. You made me pull.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back to your class and give you more trouble. That's all.
No, I think we had that conversation a couple weeks ago about how I thought that was gonna happen, but you ultimately did not end up doing that. So no, we're good.
All right, cool. Thanks for everything, Anthony. Hope to see you around.
Yeah, totally.
Got you. See ya.
Any other questions? Take one more, and it better be good. Just kidding. Now, no one wants to ask. If not, I can talk a little bit more about my my experience. Did I not talk to you guys about it? I thought I did. Can someone confirm or deny?
Can you hear?
Yeah.
No, we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, you kind of left us hanging, you son of a bitch.
So yeah, I'm thinking of entering it like next year when I'm
go for it, man.
better. Just because I have my visa is gonna be up, so I'm probably gonna have to move back to Jamaica, or if some miracles happen, I can move to Canada. But for the Jamaica thing, I can get famous in Jamaica if I do that.
Yeah.
Because in the US, I bet you won, but it's not like a big deal. But in Jamaica, it would be.
I'll be king.
I will go there. I will just take over and point to a house. No, it's like
point to a house that is mine now.
Yes, I'll take it and its inhabitants as my as my workers. It's it's kind of a bigger deal to win anything on behalf of the country, no matter how
that's cool,
kind of useless it is outside, because it's so small.
Yeah.
A country.
Like Cool Runnings, right?
Yeah.
Cool Runnings.
Yeah. Our bobsled team came dead last, and we were proud like we won.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah. That's a true story of pride. Yeah,
actually, I don't think we came last. I think we didn't even get out of the heat.
Yeah. No, I don't think that was the moral of the movie anyway. It was just a win. It's like people don't remember this, but Rocky lost against Apollo Creed in the very first film.
He did.
Yeah, some people don't actually remember this because there's so many movies. They just think he won everyone, right? Mm-hmm. And no, the first film he lost, but it wasn't about that. The movie was actually about love, and it was about overcoming like the odds, like everyone not believing that you can do a thing, and then you doing the thing, you know. Yeah. Because that's why the screaming of Adrian is so iconic. It's because she was like the only one that gave a damn about him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, this really heartful moment. It's like, you know, he's got like a bloody face, and Adrian's like, Rocky, Rocky. You know, it's really touching. Because he lost, but the thing is that he stood up all 12 rounds, and he knocked Apollo Creed down. That was the win. Like, he didn't knock him out; he just knocked him down. Nobody's ever knocked Apollo Creed down, you know. And so it's cool. I love Rocky 1 is by far my favorite Rocky, because the hero doesn't win, but it's not about that, right? Like, it's really about how he overcomes all this trials and stuff like this. That's really what all those Rocky movies are about. Except for, I think, Rocky 4, where it's like, no, he really is like fighting against evil, right? Like the Russian, like the montage of the Russian training is like robotic. He's like in a machine. Like, he's got like things pumped into his blood. It seems like he's like clearly like a monster being created. Versus Rocky's training out in the snow with like logs and stuff like this. Like, that was like clearly like night and day, like good versus evil, you know? Like, he kills Apollo Creed. Like, it's like a true like good versus evil movie. That one's the most memorable. Most people remember that one. But like the first Rocky, I think is, again, still my favorite. But anyway, getting to the I'm just gonna stop here. So the event was incredible. I learned quite a lot about myself, about the whole process in general. And one of the things that, oh wow, this is much darker. I moved it to a different screen. This is a problem with my main monitor. It's not that color accurate, which is a problem. I need to work on that. This is more of what I saw. I'm not sure how it is for you guys. Okay. Yeah, like one of the biggest things about that event was that I was just super nervous. it is really like artists are not built for this. You know, like having a stage of people watching you and like having all these colors and lights. Because like the colors, I was painting and like the light would actually shine on your monitor, like your Cintiq.
Yeah.
It would just cover it in red, and like now my whole screen is literally red, and I'm like painting. I'm like, this is fucking a nightmare. Like I can't see my colors, you know?
I saw you looking at the big screen and never at the Cintiq.
Yeah, I did look at the Cintiq often. It was off and on though. It was like up and down, right? And I looked at the Cintiq just to kind of see how, because it was more real time because I would paint and it would happen. But then when I look up, it was slower. It was delayed. But also the machines were garbage, so I had to paint at half the resolution that I normally paint at, right? Normally I paint at like 8.5 by 11 resolution, which is like about 2,000 by 3,000 pixels. I had to paint at 100 or 1,000 by 500 pixels, which is incredibly small, you know?
Whoa.
Because the brushes were slow. They were just choppy, you know?
Oh.
And so I was like painting slow just because I had to, you know? And I was telling the guy who brought me out there that, and he was like, really? I was like, yeah, dude, I was painting in mud. Like, that's what it felt like. And he's like, really? Wow. And I was like, yeah. And I feel vindicated to make these complaints because I won. It's not like I lost and then I'm making excuses for losing. I won, and I'm like, no, but these were like the hurdles I had to like overcome. Nobody saw this, you know? And there was just tons of those types of these problems happening, but nobody could tell because I was just painting so proficiently. A lot of people thought that I was totally collected the whole time, but I'm going to tell you, it was not. I was totally stressing out. I was a lot of anxiety, especially the last match. The last match, I had a ton of anxiety. And I thought even in the last match that I was going to lose. I really genuinely thought I lost. And because from my perspective, JB Styles is a great artist, and he just kind of like just draws really well. And he can just kind of create an image really like what I think is like a finished image relatively quickly. But, you know, I was talking to my friends who are artists, and many of them thought that, yeah, it was very close, and that the fact that I animated at the end was really what took it over, you know? And, but then when I was talking to my friends who aren't artists, nobody felt this way. Everybody felt like it was just not even like a contest, that I just went in there and just demolished everybody. Like nobody even came close. That's kind of from the perspective of a layman, right? And I was wondering why this was, but then I thought about it and I was like, oh, I should have known better. I should know, because I talk about this stuff all the time when I teach about design. I talk about like how people like get really freaking annoyed with nostrils on the Ninja Turtles movies, like the new ones that came out. They're, oh, fucking nostrils. And I'm like, bro, you're complaining about nostrils in a movie about giant mutated turtles that happen to be teenagers that know kung fu, love pizza, and that love pizza, and they were trained by a giant mutated rat that also just somehow knows kung fu. And nostrils is like the biggest complaint. Are you kidding me? Like, this clearly is not where you should complain. And it did well because nobody cares about that stuff. Like, regular people do not care, you know? People love the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know? Like, the general masses love it. I went to watch the Endgame, and it was a great example of what I mean by this. Like, people literally stood up, screaming and cheering. There's like this really great YouTube video, I think, of like people in Taiwan or something like this. I forget. So one of those Far East nations. They were watching it, and it was like a spectacle for them. You know, like they're like people literally in the aisles, like running up and down, like screaming and hollering when, like, spoiler alert, like when Captain America gets like Thor's hammer.
Yeah,
like literally everyone in the crowd's like, what the fuck? Yeah, everyone's freaking out. Like, and in my theater, that's happened too. Like, everybody genuinely was like, yeah, they're like screaming. And I loved it, man. I just had so much energy, and it was great. And that's the thing. And then I was talking to my friends who are like artists. They're like, well, time travel, you see like this and that, and like pushing up their glasses. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? Literally, Spider-Man is riding a Thor's hammer, jumping onto a Pegasus with
Yeah.
a Valkyrie fighting a space whale.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're worried about time travel, dude, you're focused on the wrong problems. You know, like, this movie is not made to be serious. You know, they even make fun of the whole idea of time travel by naming all the time travel movies. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and so going back to this painting competition, like, that's the same principle applies here. That the perception of painting is different than drawing. So when you see someone draw, it seems easier. You know what I mean? Like, you even mentioned, like, when someone's like constructing lines, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where when you see what I do, like, for instance, this demonstration I did for you guys, right? Like, when I just put in shapes and then things just come to be, like, immediately, and it's like light and form, texture, distance, space, composition is all coming together with every stroke, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I am like on a whole nother level. You know what I mean? And I was trying to explain this to my wife that, like, if they told me that I had to draw a car chase because that's what JB Styles did,
Mm-hmm.
that I would have failed because I don't know how to draw cars. I'm not very good at drawing cars. But if it's like open-ended, like a vehicle chase, then I would draw spaceships or robots, you know, something that I am really good at doing. I'm a world builder. I build worlds, right? And that was my advantage as well. I was creating an original concept, you know, every time. And that's why I think concept artists are built for this competition, because that is literally what we do, right? We have to paint something of high quality from sometimes very loose terms, you know? And so I think people were not expecting to see somebody constantly reinvent a universe every demo or every contest, and then at the same time do it really effectively, you know? And like I said, I don't think that I am the fastest either. I think that I can name several that are much faster than me and just as good, if not better, right? And I would love for them to go and compete so that I can genuinely feel that I own the title against some of the best in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and so my perception of it was definitely I was super stressed out the whole time. I can respect why some people had their opinions one way or another, right? And I was trying to explain this to the guy who brought me out there. His name is Paul. I was trying to explain to him that, like, you know, this definitely, there needs to be different leagues, you know, because I think JB Style is a great illustrator, and it would be cool for him to go against other illustrators, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
somewhat something like UFC, right? Like the UFC, you know, ultimately Muay Thai, boxing, and like Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu like rule out for all like the best fighting styles for that kind of situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're not aiming to kill somebody, but you're just aiming to like just beat the crap out of somebody with whatever tools are available to you. I think
Mm-hmm.
those ended up rising to the top because those just are the most practical fighting styles, right? Like, there's a video of like a Chinese MMA fighter going against like a Wing Chun guy, and he like demolishes him, right?
Mm-hmm.
MMA is like is a more practical fighting style, right? Because it takes in all the more practical fighting styles. So I feel like if it's just like the UFC of painting, then concept art will almost always come over on top over almost all any other art approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you still have like boxing and jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, these individual disciplines, you know what I mean? Having their own individual competitions to see who is the greatest, like who is the best boxer, like, you know what I mean? Who is the best jiu-jitsu fighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think it would be fair, like, because I think people who are like storyboard artists would be really good at telling a story, you know, really quickly, but it will all be just drawn and will be perceived not as good, right? Very sketched in, very like poorly drawn, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
like painted, you know. And so, and then you see this happen on ArtStation and DeviantArt and any other art platform, right? Like, people who tend to just do really polished work tend to get more exposure. It's just how it is, right? Whether you agree with it or not, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think this is still true, you know, in a competition type sense, especially to just average users. Like, they're not going to know the difference, you know. Only us artists can, and like even Ariel, we were just talking about literally moments ago about like noticing the differences, you know. When you
Mm-hmm.
become an expert, you see these nuanced differences, but from everybody else's perspective, from like the general audience perspective, they do not. you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a fascinating thing, the whole thing. It was such a cool trip because I got to fly out there for free, uh, basically enjoy the culture for a day or two, and then compete in this really spectacle of a thing, which was really cool in itself. Even though I was super anxious and nervous the whole time, right? Um, I I end up winning somewhere around uh, 30 or 37 to 40,000 US dollars, which is great.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ. Is that much money?
yeah, which is great. So I got like a free trip, got to participate in something that seems relatively unique and win money. It was cool, man. It's
Mhm.
just a cool experience altogether. And I wasn't looking to win at all. In fact, I was so unprepared for winning that like I didn't bring a big luggage. So like the trophy that I won, I didn't have space for it. So I had to like figure out where to throw away stuff. And I also was planning to do freelance that night that I won.
Mhm.
But then obviously I won, and then I celebrated instead. Luckily, all my employers all watched it too, and they're like, "Oh, dude, don't worry about it. Take a break." They all thought it was fascinating, but yeah, it was a good experience. I would definitely recommend people to try it out and participate. I'm gonna try to build it out in the U.S. My long term goals is that I want to coach and teach because I actually prefer this more than anything else, right? I think I want to still try to get to a high level that I am incredibly hard to beat, if not um, part of the world, like be another world champion. Probably one more time, and then just ultimately just retire to teaching, because I really don't want to keep doing that. It was fucking stressful, you know. I'm
Mhm.
not built for it. I thought I would be because I do demos all the time. I'm on stage. I never get nervous painting in front of people, large amounts of people, never. But I realize the context is different, you know,
Mhm.
where it's not like a competition that I have to do really great. It's usually I'm teaching people how to get better, and that's a whole different context. So anyway, yeah, it was cool to it was cool. I highly recommend y'all participate. And if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you'll hear more about it when it starts to happen. When I start to push it out. But me and the guy, we're working together. We're going to try to make it more popular. Um, I'm I'm really excited about it,
Mm.
and I
Oh,
think it's a
thanks.
cool opportunity too. It's one of those industries too, like unlike other sports or any other kind of competition.
Mhm.
I guess there's a couple others that are really good examples that are similar to what I'm about to say, but like the traditional stuff like soccer, football, or any kind of like physical activity, those have a shelf life, right? The older you get, the more rickety you get. and
Yeah.
and so those are obviously there's a shelf life to it. And even if you are in the NBA, let's say like the NBA, and you go to the finals, but you're just like a point guard that nobody remembers your name, right?
Mhm.
Like that's hard to kind of run with after the fact, right? Like it's really hard to kind of leverage that. You have to be like the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, LeBron James, to get like deals on deals on deals.
Mhm.
And then sustain, like Michael Jordan essentially just made Jordans, and now he's like basically forever wealthy.
Mhm.
And so that's really hard to do. Same thing with esports. Esports is the same thing. It even has a shorter shelf life. People can't keep playing until their 30s. Like it's not possible because
Mhm.
younger kids have more time, less responsibilities, and higher reflexes. This is just reality. And so, and another problem is that doesn't happen in traditional sports is that with esports, video games sometimes also fall off. Like people just get bored with a game and they just stop watching it. They're on to the next big game, right?
Mhm.
And so that's another like kind of problem that like someone who's into esports has to deal with. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Mhm.
But as a painter, right? Like if you go to stage, and even if you lose, but you did really well, people will go to your portfolio. They will say, "Oh, this person's actually a really great artist."
Mhm.
And if you just keep competing and you keep practicing, even if you never win, you're always getting better as an artist, and you're
Mhm.
increasing your exposure as an artist. And that is almost always easier to leverage because then you can teach, you can get hired by studios, you can develop your own books and sell those. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole array of things that an artist can actually benefit from something like this. Even if they don't win, even if they're not the best. And that to me, I think is really attractive. And that's why I really want to push this. Because anything to give my fellow artists more opportunities, I'm a big fan of. If I didn't feel that there was, I wouldn't pursue it. So keep that in mind, y'all. Start getting your speed painting chops up. I'll see you in the arena.
I'll just avoid any year you enter. I lose, but I'm not.
The very first match.
I'm not looking to be demolished. There's no reason to take my Pee Wee League to play Manchester United. There's no reason for that.
Yeah. Anyway, cool. It was an honor to teach all of you guys. It's a pleasure. I wish you guys the best of luck in your future endeavors. You guys can always reach out to me one way or another, either Instagram or Facebook, whatever. ArtStation as well. Do whatever you got to do. You guys have the email too. If you ever have questions, I'm always around. Even if I don't get to you right away, I will try to find ways to get to you. It's all good. I believe in y'all. Keep painting, keep drawing, keep working, and you guys will make it. I'm assured of it. And with that being said, latest friends, have a good one, and I'll talk to you guys in the future. Laters. Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.